Hello friends, my name is Amelia. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the new year. I hope everybody's New Year's was good. Mine was pretty quiet. We just kind of stayed home, played some games, had some wine, but I enjoyed myself. But yeah, today's video we're going to be setting up the first month in my reading journal for the new year, which is of course January. So let's go ahead and jump into the reading journal and then we'll come back and talk about my TBR. Alright, welcome to the first reading journal setup of the new year. I hope you guys all have your reading journals set up and ready to go for the new year. So my plan for my reading journal this year is I'm kind of wanting to try and push myself a little bit in terms of my artistic abilities, because a lot of the time in my reading journal or bullet journal, which I don't really do much anymore, I will kind of do things that are familiar and I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely pull this off. And while I do enjoy that, it makes it easy to create spreads that I think look nice. I would like to, in this new year, kind of try to, as I said, push myself and develop my artistic abilities a little bit more. In my yearly setup, I kind of did that as well. It's definitely not a style that I've used in my reading journal before, so that was really fun and I really loved the way it turned out. It was a really good way to kind of push myself a little bit, as I was saying, and I discovered that that is something that I can do and that I love the way that it looks. So for my January setup, I decided to try a slightly different style. You could kind of say that this isn't like that different, but what I was trying to do was, I don't know if you've ever seen the like paper cut style illustration or the actual like paper cut artwork where it's like layers of paper that are cut out and then like stacked up on top of each other to form the illustration or like art piece. But that is essentially what I was trying to recreate here, and it's definitely a lot more difficult to recreate it by just drawing in a notebook, because like obviously when you have physical layers of paper it creates shadows and dimension all on its own, and it's a lot easier to recreate that on a digital format because you can just add like drop shadows and that kind of thing, which is not really that easy to do with just like markers and this kind of format, I guess you could say. Obviously you can make shadows and stuff, that's just not something that I haven't really done much like actual like drawing with markers, like just like filling in doodles and that kind of thing, yes, but like trying to make something with like dimension, no. So I did end up doing like some shadowy things. You won't see it right now, but I came back at the end and did it actually, partially just to make sure the marker was totally dry, and also just kind of because I forgot about it at first, so I had to come back and add it later. But the scene that I'm drawing, I decided to go for like kind of a fairy tale-esque Rapunzel-y tower. It's pink, it's fun, and then just like on an island in a little lake, and then we're just kind of doing a random sort of shape as the outline, and then I'm going to color the whole page in pink in a second. Now for the month of January, I used the same setup technique and like, I don't know if you'd call it a technique, but like the same pages and stuff that I used in most of my monthly spreads last year. So I just have like a decorated cover page. I've got a page for a month in review, and then on the other side I'll have a page for my pages read, page tracker, whatever you want to call it, spread. And I do like that, but I am kind of considering potentially having some more, not specifically variety, but like adding more to my monthly setup. So potentially having a page where I write down the TBR and have a spot where I can mark down whether or not I read those books. I just think it would be interesting to have a little bit more information and be able to like compare what I thought I was going to read in a month to like what I actually read. I don't know. Personally, I just think that's kind of interesting, but I don't know. I haven't totally decided yet, but I would like to. Same with my desire to, experiment with my art styles and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind experimenting with some different spreads, layouts. I actually watched Katie's readings flip through recently of the 2023 journal, and she was talking about spreads that she had made for her reading challenges, and I actually think that's a great idea that I might try to do this year. If I have a 24-hour reading challenge or whatever, it might be interesting to make some spreads for that. I also did not completely fill in all the pages in my reading journal last year. I probably had like 50, well, maybe not 50, maybe like 50 like sides of a page, but not like 50 spreads remaining. So I would like to be able to, I just think it's so satisfying, you know, when you actually fill like the whole journal in from one end to the other. So since I don't usually read more than like 60 to 70 books, and I'm not trying to really increase the number of books that I'm reading just because I read long books. I have a lot of long books planned, and I'm not gonna just read short books in order to hit a random reading metric. So all this to say that I need other ways to fill in the pages if I want to fill in the whole journal. So yeah, that is something I might consider. Reading challenge spreads, spreads for TBR. I don't know. I'm going to experiment a little bit, and hopefully I will share that with you. Now, I'm currently working on my pages read spread, and you can actually see here that I did go in and try to add some shadows, and I think it worked out pretty well. The only thing is I don't know what color to make the shadow on, like after the edge of the art. Like, should I just add a gray line, or do I just leave it plain? I'm not really sure. I kind of feel like just a gray line might stand out and look a little bit weird, but I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I'm just going back to the month in review and title pages now to add in all those little shadow lines, and I think that it actually really does make a difference in terms of dimension and like adding depth. Kind of in the video, I actually think it works better than it does like in person, which is kind of funny because I often feel like it looks, no, I suppose that's not true. It does often look better on the video. I think it just kind of blurs out a little bit of the imperfections and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think the shadows did kind of work out in the end. It could have been better, it could have been worse. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I'm excited to use this theme throughout the month. But yeah, this is a quick flip through of the pages, and that is everything for the reading journal segment. Alright, welcome back. So I have myself a stack of books here that I want to talk about, and as in last month's TBR, I'm making this TBR bigger than I can probably read. Like, we've got a lot of kind of big books here, and I'm not anticipating that I'm going to get through all of these, but I want to give myself options and still be able to feel like I am checking things off my TBR, as it will. So let's talk about the first book. Alright, I'm going to start by talking about books that I have already mentioned on this channel. They've either been in previous TBRs or they're part of series that I'm already reading / have talked about reading. So first up we have A Gathering Storm, which is book 12 of the Wheel of Time. I really recently finished Knife of Dreams, and I really enjoyed that one. I really felt like we were getting out of the sort of middle Wheel of Time slump and picking up pace as we come towards the last battle. So I'm excited to continue on with this series, and I'm getting very close to the end now, so I'm getting excited. I feel like when I finally finish the last book, it's going to feel like such a big accomplishment. But yeah, sorry, this one is like, seems to be especially floppy. You can't go wrong with a good floppy paperback. They're just, I love a hardback, but a floppy paperback, they're just such a good reading experience. But anyway, yeah, Wheel of Time, book 12. I can't tell you too much about what this is about without spoiling the first 11 books. And also, I don't really know exactly what is meant to happen in this one, other than we will continue preparing for the last battle, I assume. So yeah, looking forward to that. And also there's a cool dragon on the cover, so we'll see if that comes into play. Alright, also from a series that have already started, we have Deadhouse Gates. Now, Malazan was one of the series that I was initially intending to read from last year, but I only ended up reading the first book, and actually I think I read that in 2022, but last year I was reading Wheel of Time and also Realm of the Elderlings, and I simply did not have time or brain space for another big series, so I'm really hoping to make some good progress or get through the whole thing this year. This is a book 2. I was originally thinking that I should reread book 1, but I don't really feel like it, and so then I think that's going to make it more of a barrier to me actually continuing the series, so I'm just going to start from the second one. I have a pretty decent memory of what happened in the first, so I'm not super concerned about that. But yeah, I'm excited to jump back into this. I know it's a very loved and also complicated series, so I think I'm going to need my full brainwaves for this one. This one is about 900 pages. It is also the small mass market paperback though, so I think they tend to have more pages than like the full size, because obviously you can fit more words on one of these pages than the other. But yeah, that is Deadhouse Gates. All right, next up we have some series that I have talked about but I haven't started. And I actually have 3 first books of series here. So January, you know, new beginnings, new series. So first I have Way of Kings. This is book 1 of the Stormlight Archive. I believe book 5, and I think it's this series, is coming out this year. So I've got 4 books to read before then, but I think it's coming out in like November. So if I want to read it right when it releases, I've got plenty of time. So this, I don't really know anything about this series. A lot of people love it though, so I'm really excited to try it out. I got this one from a thrift store, so very exciting. If I don't like it, I won't have spent too much money. But I did enjoy the 3 of the Secret Projects that I've read so far, some more than others. And I'm really excited to jump into some of Sanderson's longer works, his more complete series, and see what I think of those, because I think the Secret Projects are kind of a slightly different tone. Like, he changed up the writing style for those, so we'll see how well it translates into these. I don't really know anything about it, as I said, so we shall see what I think when I actually get to reading it. Alright, next we have one that I have talked about. It was on my December TBR, it may have been on my November, I don't remember, but it is Malice by John Gwynne. This is book 1 of The Faithful and the Fallen. This is only a 4-book series, and it is complete, I think, which is very exciting, because, you know, I can just read the whole thing if I love this one. Again, a good large floppy paperback. I think this size is called trade paperback, and they're just, yeah, such a great size. But I really liked, or have really enjoyed, the Bloodsworn series so far, as I've said, so I wanted to get to more of John Gwynne's writing. He does fantasy epics, he does great action and kind of battle scenes, and it looks like we're going to be following 4 main characters, so I'm excited to start this. It's another one where I kind of don't know that much about it. That's just kind of how I go into books. I just like will hear a recommendation or read something else by that author and be like, yeah, I can just like commit to however many books with almost no idea what's about to happen. And that is how I've got into this next book, which is Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Quantrill, book 1 of the Echoes saga. I heard somebody, I can't remember, I think it was either Library of a Viking or Andrew Watson mention this series, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So when my mother-in-law asked me what I want for Christmas, I mentioned this book, and she bought the whole series. So now this year I have another big series to read. I'm really excited about these. I don't know what happens in them, but there's dragons on most of the covers, so I'm in. Unfortunately, I did not have this series on my series tracker, my reading journal, which is very sad, but oh well, I'm going to be reading it anyway, hopefully all of it. I wasn't really planning to add another big series to my list of series this year, but it seems that I'm going to be, because this is a 10-book series, and I now own them all. And they all have really beautiful covers. I love this cover style. Yeah, it sounds like we got a prophecy going on. We got elves, we got a war, kingdoms, all sorts of fun fantasy things, so I can't wait to get into this one. And finally, for a bit of fun, something that feels like it's kind of fitted to the wintry season when you just want to be inside and be cozy, we have Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. I very recently read Legends and Lattes, and I really enjoyed Legends and Lattes. Very sweet, cozy, and so I'm excited to read this one. So this one comes before Legends and Lattes, when Viv is still a mercenary, essentially. So it'll be interesting to see how the cozy kind of element comes in. I assume we'll have sort of low stakes, but potentially more action than in the first one. I'm not totally sure. We shall see. But yeah, this is my TBR stack for January. We got some pretty big books in here. We shall see how many I get to. I definitely want to get to Rise of the Ranger, and then probably Bookshops and Bone Dust. Those are 2 that like I'm pretty excited to read, so I'm pretty sure I can get to those. As for the rest, we shall see what happens, but that is all that I have time for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.